man!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here.
Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani and you're watching Firstpost. Now, it was a day to remember for any sports fan. Sunday was the day that the underdog stood up and punched above their weight. The young challenged the world order. The not-so-fancied outwitted the ones with a lot of pedigree. Every contest has its favourites. The ones tipped to win based on experience, ranking, and just the odds that stacked up. Sunday was a day of defiance where the rule book went out of the window. The favourites tag crumbled. And the world applauded the never say die attitude. Whether it was a security guard who limped his way to give his country a historic win in 27 years, to become a cricketing hero, or a young 22-year-old who came back from 2 sets down and near defeat to rewrite tennis history and put his country on the global map, or a couple of youngsters who defied the odds, stood up against the most experienced and fancied hosts to script a memorable test victory away. Today, Firstpost is dedicated to champions who rose out of nothing to overcome it all and create something special. All of that lined up for you over the next half hour, but first, a look at the headlines in Sports 360. We'll start with the world of football. Xavi is leaving Barcelona, yes, again. As a player, he left the club in 2015, but the Barcelona manager has announced that he will leave the club at the end of the season. On to the Australian Open 2024. In the women's singles, defending champion Aryna Sabalenka retained her crown. It was a one-sided final at the Rod Laver Arena. World number 2, Sabalenka crushed 12-seeded Zheng Xinwen 6-3, 6-2 in just over 75 minutes. Sabalenka is the first woman in more than a decade who's managed to defend her title crown at the Australian Open. The last time someone did it was Victoria Azarenka in 2012-13. Over in men's doubles, the oldest world number 1 clinched his maiden Grand Slam title. Rohan Bopanna and Australian Matthew Ebden beat their Italian counterparts 7-6, 7-5 in the doubles final. With that win, Bopanna also became the oldest man to win a Grand Slam title. The duo paired up at the start of 2023 and have achieved several milestones together. On to cricket, the International Cricket Council, or the ICC, has lifted its suspension of Sri Lankan cricket. The decision will be implemented with immediate effect. ICC had banned Sri Lanka earlier, last year in fact, over government interference in its affairs. Sri Lanka's Sports Ministry sacked the National Cricket Board after a poor World Cup run. China's former football head, Zhen Zhuwan, heads to trial. He faces bribery allegations, according to China's local media. Zhen Zhuwan, while heading the Football Association, had vowed to end corruption in the sport. He was placed under investigation in February last year on disciplinary grounds. Later in September, he was indicted, confessing that he accepted money. And the story of the underdog is one close to my heart. We love a team that is seemingly down and out, or is written off, coming and proving all wrong. West Indies cricket is in the middle of a fight against cricket's ever-changing system, and T20 cricket, in fact, taking over. Some of their seniors in the West Indies cricket team had decided to throw it all away and their central contracts for the more lucrative T20 cricket. Players like Nicholas Pooran and Jason Holder, who have been pivotal components in the squad, all decided to move away and follow T20 cricket the world over. The issue for West Indies cricket, though, runs deeper than this, of course. The amount of money a West Indian cricketer gets if he is centrally contracted is far lesser than what he would get for every T20 match he plays. So the motivation is difficult to achieve. Plus, they were coming up against one of the big 3 of cricket world, Australia. The number 8 test side up against the number 1. And the tour started off with a 2-test series. The West Indies squad had 7 uncapped players, and they were coming in just after Australia had snacked on Pakistan, a team more experienced than West Indies. Pakistan had not won a single test in their campaign that concluded just recently. So on paper, this series against West Indies was declared as a possible whitewash. The first test was in fact a lopsided affair. Australia won it despite a steely display by one man, young tearaway bowling sensation Shamar Joseph, the man who took a wicket off his first ball in international cricket, and that too one of the best in the world, someone he has always looked up to, Stephen Smith. He went on to take a fifer. Now, despite Windies ending up on the losing side, both the teams travelled to Brisbane next, and Australia was all set to close the series out in Gabba, a venue that has not been all too happy for the hosts, especially of late after India's tour some years ago. And on Sunday, Gabba sang praise of the biggest underdog story in Test cricket. Chasing 215 runs, Australia started day 4, which is on Sunday, at 60 for 2, and with Steve Smith and Cameron Green at the crease, there was no two-way this test was ending on a surprise note. Shamar Joseph runs in on fire. He sends back the big batters one by one. If the Yorker was what did Travis head in, Cameron Green was done in by the sheer bounce and what Shamar was making the ball do. Mitchell Marsh, Alex Carey, all experienced batters had no answers to Shamar's pace and accuracy. To think he was not even going to take the field. Shamar, while batting the previous day, that's on Saturday, had been struck hard on his toe by a toe crusher by Mitchell Starc and was hurt bad. Although there was no fracture, his feet was raw and hurting. He could not even get himself to the ground. But when his skipper told him to get onto the field on Sunday, he got on whatever clothes he could find, taped his number and name and came out on. Someone ran to fetch his whites from the hotel, which he changed into in the middle of the match, and then there was no stopping him. Bleeding, limping, pumped with painkillers, Shamar Joseph ran in and created history. Yes, we spoke to the star batter, of course, a while earlier, a little bit on that later. But the commentary, even when Australia was 6 wickets down, was still giving Australia the win. And even when it came down to 8 wickets, 29 runs left with 2 wickets still in hand and Smith still at the crease, how difficult could this be for the hosts? Surely this young West Indian team did not have it in them to overthrow the Aussies, the mighty Aussies. No West Indian outfit had been able to do so in 27 years, and the earlier teams had legends in the mix, a couple of whom were in the commentary box and still not able to give this West Indian benefit any miracle. But it came and in the manner in which it did. First, Nathan Lyon was dismissed, and then a beauty by Shamar to dismantle the stumps behind Hazelwood. Smith stranded unbeaten on 91, and Shamar, injured foot, mad with joy, raced away to the ropes, all his teammates running to catch him. The commentary takes over. Brian Lara, who is in the box on the mic, is in tears. He says this young team that everyone had written off did what no West Indian outfit could in 27 years. Adam Gilchrist, who's sitting beside him, right next to him, is hugging him. As Lara teary-eyed says, today West Indian cricket can stand tall. And all credit goes to every single person in that squad. Carl Hooper, again a former West Indian batter, all-rounder, was holding the door of the commentary box and sobbing. The moment was massive. There was pride, there was relief, there was hope in those tears. Former Aussie keeper bat Adam Gilchrist is just as emotional, and you would be, because that was a triumph of the sport, not just of one team over the other. It was of a format that was facing a serious threat of extinction. Legendary Aussie captain Steve Waugh, after the test, in fact, says there's nothing like Test cricket, and this man, Shamar Joseph, may be the saviour in the purest form of the game. Cinderella stories are rare in sport, but this was truly epic from a young man who has single-handedly reignited the passion of cricket followers in the Caribbean and the world over. Lara was there at the press conference too when Shamar and captain Craig Brathwaite spoke to the press. He was taking pictures and shooting videos of the youngsters who were just soaking it all in, and they'd earned it. And when asked what brought on such an inspiring performance, this is what skipper Brathwaite said.
I must say, we had 2 words that inspired us in this test match. Mr. Rodney Hawks said that we are pathetic and hopeless. That was our inspiration. We wanted to show the world we are not pathetic. And I ask him, are these muscles big enough for him?
And of course, the crowd erupted and applauded right after he said those at the post-match presentation. Even after the celebrations, there were pictures during the rounds of Pat Cummins meeting Shamar Joseph, and clearly the lad had taken cricket world by storm, and the captain of the losing team was just as touched by it all.
They've been fantastic. They created a couple of new superstars that we didn't know about before the series, and as a cricket fan, as a test match cricket fan, there's a part of me that was happy to watch. They outplayed us. They played brilliantly. I know a lot of the talk coming into this was there was some debutants and some names who hadn't travelled over here before. But once you put out an international 11, you know it's going to be tough.
Here's the perfect rags to riches story of Shamar. The boy is from a village in Barakara in Guyana. He was a log cutter and he escaped a near-death experience cutting log, got away from there to earn a living in the city. He started working as a security guard. One day he decided to bowl as a net bowler during the CPL or the Caribbean Premier League. It's a T20 domestic tournament. One of the analysts and talent scouts associated with the team, India's Prasanna Agoram, a talent scout with Guyana in fact, spotted him and started speaking to him. He had come only to earn some money and then go back to being a security guard. Prasanna said he was born to play cricket. A CPL contract followed. He was also noticed by Curtly Ambrose, who said he should be part of the Guyana state side. He did that, and of course from there on, reports say the skipper helped him move up the ranks to now representing his national side. Today, Shamar Joseph has done the impossible and his childlike innocence shines through. In fact, I spoke to him in an exclusive conversation just after that series 11 win, and this is what he said.
Yesterday was a fairy tale. That's all I could say. I still feel like I'm actually dreaming, knowing that I wake up this morning still wondering that if we have another big win. But I didn't know that it was over yesterday. So, like, I'm still in a shock, but I'm really happy that we did it as a team and as a team. Yeah, there's a lot to say. All I gotta say to mostly young men and women, there's always a possibility of achieving what you want to achieve in life. There's always just self-belief, have confidence in yourself, always think that you could be able to do what you want to achieve in life. That's all that I want to say out there. This is coming from no other than Shamar Joseph, who is Sydney's fast bowler. I love you guys and I thank for the support out there.
In fact, you can catch the full interview tomorrow evening and a repeat as well tomorrow night here on Firstpost. That's 6 p.m. Indian Standard Time and 12 and 10:30 p.m. as well. Boy who has taken the world by storm. We were told the media from all over were thronging at the hotel waiting to see him and get a piece of him. Listen to how he went about dismantling the Aussie attack and his journey to the top, including the Indian connection to his rise, which he just got a piece of. Now, the India versus England cricket contest was expected to be a strong advert for Test cricket, and that's what happened over the last 4 days. The first test is always the one that sets the tone for any series. But the Indian city of Hyderabad witnessed a resilient English side that stood tall against a proven Test side that defends well at home. Chasing a target of 231, India fell short on day 4 on a Sunday. A similar capitulation that happened over at Gaba, which we spoke about. What were the 5 reasons for that to happen here, and England's success, and where did India falter? England smartly chose to bat first, given how pitches in India can possibly get slower and possibly turn as well towards the 4th innings. The one man who in fact stood tall and played a critical knock that made the difference up front, skipper Ben Stokes. He walked in, of course, when England was struggling at 137 for 6. His 70 added some valuable runs to the English total. In fact, after the first innings, India's R. Ashwin said that they probably let England score a little more than they should have. Second reason, Joe Root, the batter, might have troubled India in the past, but in the second innings, it was Joe Root, the bowler, who stepped up to shepherd the young spin bowlers alongside him. He got rid of both Ravindra Jadeja and Yashasvi Jaiswal, who were on course to scoring centuries. Though Jadeja's dismissal raised some eyebrows, of course, in his presence, they continued when the pitch was holding true, could have changed the course of the game. It would have given India the psychological edge. Root bowled well in tandem with Tom Hartley to put the pressure. Root picked 4 wickets, but India still managed to score 436 runs. The 190-run lead made it a daunting task ahead for England. And that makes me come to reason number 3. When the big guns failed to contribute in England's second innings, it was the youngster that set the stage on fire, Ollie Pope. We mentioned in the lead up to the test how the pressure and expectations were on the youngsters from both these sides. Ollie Pope scored a daddy 100, means he did not stop at just 100 runs. He kept piling on the agony to finish at 192. Not many would have given Ollie a chance had they seen his previous record, or his record up till now in India. He had only managed to score 154 runs in his previous 9 outings. a poor average of just over 17. So he was coming in with some appalling numbers behind him. The youngster held one end up and frustrated the Indian bowlers. Thanks to Pope's knock, England got back into the game, and Ollie Pope's batting reflected that much of maturity and resilience. Reason number 4, Ben Stokes was breaking into the test with, of course, how well would bazball succeed. There was a lot of questions of whether it would really come good in subcontinent conditions. Commentators were practically predicting a landslide victory for India. He was going in with the most inexperienced spinners that are critical in these conditions. One of them, Shoaib Bashir, was sent back home, in fact, after his visa proved to be delayed, and he's of course joining in later, but Stokes was coming into the first test a tad frustrated. He showed none of that on the field though. The fact that he isn't bowling now didn't matter. He was the perfect strategist who backed his team and their collective vision. His counter-attacking innings aside, he kept faith in someone like Tom Hartley. The youngster got thrashed in the first innings. The key to any spinner is captain's confidence, and Stokes understood that perfectly.
The game plan there is we are out here for a long tour and this is going to be a long game. So I was willing to give him the longer spell, regardless of what had happened, because I knew I was going to have to turn back to him at some point throughout this test match. Allowing him to have the longer spell at the start was almost justification to say, you know, what I was telling you before the game started is going to happen. Whether or not that was the reason to say he got 7 wickets and won us the game this innings, who knows? But that was the thought process behind it, and giving the people we select complete backing and not going back on the words that we speak.
On to reason number 5, it has to be the youngster who really stole the show on day 4. Tom Hartley had a horrid outing in the first innings, predictably so, but came back with renewed confidence in the second. With the ball keeping low and the rough patches only on the good length areas, Hartley exploited the conditions really well. We called him India's Akshar Patel equivalent, and he did exactly what Akshar had done to England the last time they had toured. The left-arm spinner reposed the faith Stokes showed on him. His consistent line and length created pressure on the Indian batters. This pushed India, and the batters crumbled under pressure. The pitch didn't have any demons. The batting conditions may have been difficult. It was very slow compared to the earlier days, but if India's last recognized pair of R. Ashwin and K.S. Bharat could stitch a patient 60-run partnership, why couldn't the rest? India's batting really lacked a bit of teeth and grit. Defensive batting is a bit of an art that's mastered by so many who have stood tall over the past during India's dominance in Test cricket. This Indian lineup, though, lacked that maturity and patience to grind it out. Even the seniors disappointed. After the defeat, the Indian captain Rohit Sharma, in fact, reflected on the matter. He said that when you are put against the wall, you need to show character and you have to be brave enough, and he thought that they weren't. And England had the exact opposite emotions. A team that was not meant to win showed spirit and resolve. In fact, after the triumph, Stokes rated this victory as one of his greatest as captain.
Since I've taken the captaincy on, we've had a lot of fantastic moments as a team. We've had a lot of great victories. We've been involved in some amazing games. But I think where we are and who we are playing against, this victory is 100% definitely our greatest triumph since I've been captain.
England head into the second test in Visakhapatnam with a lot of confidence. The pressure is clearly on the hosts. The words that former England captain Michael Vaughan said of turning tracks, often almost playing into the hands of the visiting sides. That would be ringing out loud somewhere. Yes, it is smart to not fall prey to your own plans, but also wiser to play to your strengths, with no doubt. Now, the Australian Open 2024 promised to be bigger, better and bolder, and it delivered to the T. We'll not beat around the bush. Let's talk about Jannik Sinner, clearly the talk of the town. Would you believe it? Australian Open, as in keeping with its long-standing tradition, has given us a new champion yet again. We sensed he had it in him to stop world number 1 in the semi-finals, which he did. The match against Daniil Medvedev on Sunday reinforced another very key aspect of Sinner and what he is meant to go on to be. I'll explain as we go. Sinner lost the first 2 sets, and not just closely lost them, he was blanked out. Medvedev came out of the stables on fire and set the final alight. He was dominating the match from the start, and that extended to over an hour. Picture this, it is your first Grand Slam final and you're down 2 sets, you're all of just 22 years, and standing in front of you is someone who's a Grand Slam champion. It isn't easy. He knows how to win the big matches. One more loose set and it's all over. And Sinner, for the first time in the tournament, showed signs of being a little confused, frustrated. He was indicating to his box that he didn't know what to do. Why though? What is it that Medvedev was doing to get under his skin? Medvedev has probably learned from his previous final losses to Sinner just last year and came out playing a different kind of tennis altogether, a sheer brain play to upset Sinner's plans. And it worked. So what did he do different? Medvedev had spent close to 24 hours on court throughout the tournament till this final. That was easily 5 hours more than his opponent on the day, Sinner. So someone who lives on wearing down his opponent, like he did in the semi-final to Alexander Zverev, knew he wouldn't have the juice to do it here against Sinner. So he was trying to finish off the points rather quickly and with a lot of power, standing away from the baseline and basically powering Sinner out of the point. Imagine the stark disparity in the experience, but a match isn't over until it's truly over. And there was that second point. There was one moment in that second set where you heard a comment from the Sinner box. His coach Darren Cahill saying, "Weather this storm." That in fact stuck, and it clearly showed. Sinner just hung on and waited for Medvedev's steam to run out and him to then pounce right back into the third set, and it was Sinner's time. There was a stark shift in the momentum of the way the game flowed. Medvedev's ground stroke speed slowed down. He visibly was looking tired. The restroom breaks, of course, again came in, signs of a desperate need to regain mental strength and focus. But Sinner was there. He was present. He was tuned in and ready to take charge. He just capitalized on it. Seeing Medvedev's agility falter, he began extending his points. In the fourth set, the duo played 20 long rallies. The weather cooling down meant that the topspin came into play and the rallies were becoming painfully long to bear for Medvedev. So he was basically tiring him out. What a champion mindset works. I mentioned at the start that the match reinforced a key aspect of Sinner's think tank, the way he thinks. A true champion always is able to shift gears, always has a plan B if plan A fails, and even a plan C. That's what Sinner displayed. Given that Sinner is 22, this was something incredible. And from there on, it was Sinner's match to lose. He pocketed the third set, and then just as things went on, he glanced down with the stadium erupting and the thought of a fight back. And he was in this now. There was no looking back. The fourth came and went. This sort of turnaround only comes with experience and age. The match went down for about 4 hours. When he won the championship point, Sinner sunk to the ground. And when he was asked how did he spend first night as a slam champion, here's what he said.
Niente, ieri siamo andati a mangiare qualcosa, abbiamo parlato un po', era una serata molto tranquilla, abbiamo fatto cose normali e ovviamente abbiamo dormito un po' meno del solito, ma dopo una partita così comunque è finita abbastanza tardi, ci sta e niente, ora sto finendo a fare qua le mie cose e poi stasera c'è il volo, ci riposiamo un pochettino e poi ci rimettiamo al lavoro.
Sinner's first Grand Slam title win will definitely be a reminder for himself of how far he's come. Almost a decade ago, he chose tennis over skiing. Sinner was 12 when he decided to pick up the racket instead. Since then, he has transformed and now belongs where he stood at the top of the podium with the winner's silverware in his hand. Sinner became the first Italian man to win a slam in 48 years. Adriano Panatta has won it in 1976 last. En route to this achievement, he stopped a 24-time Grand Slam champion in his tracks and became the youngest man after Novak Djokovic to win the Australian Open. At 22, he's Gucci's ambassador. He knows to conquer icy winds, both literally and figuratively, and even during a tennis match like we witnessed. Sinner's improvement over the years needs to be attributed to his coaches, Darren Cahill and Simone Vagnozzi, who have turned him into what he is. For Daniil Medvedev, it was a cruel fate yet again, an exact repetition of the 2022 Australian Open final where he lost to Rafael Nadal despite taking an early 2-set lead. He has lost a total of 5 Grand Slam finals that he's featured in. After losing to Jannik Sinner yesterday, Medvedev became the first player in the Open era to lose multiple Grand Slam finals from 2 sets up. It's heart-wrenching, but that's the beauty of sport. And even as he cracked a few jokes standing with the runners-up plate, we know Medvedev will be back. And the younger brigade, led by Jannik Sinner, will be waiting. We're at the end of the show and on to last serve. The big face-off date is almost here. February 1st. Lionel Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo. Inter Miami versus Al Nassr in Riyadh. And Messi has hit the ground running, training alongside his former Barcelona buddies. Really excited to see all the friendlies that Messi and Inter Miami will take center stage for in Riyadh. I'm sure Saudi Arabia will be in joy then. But thanks so much for watching First Sports. It's been a pleasure to start this week on such a note. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. Till then, take care.